The more professional you become as a content creator, the cleaner your workflow normally gets. But somehow everything around your footage gets messier. You come home with cards from different cameras, SSDs, other hard drives, card readers, and folders called Final, Final 2, and with a bit of luck, actually Final. And then the questions start. What is already backed up? Which card can I format? And where is the copy that I definitely cannot lose? The moment you shoot weddings, events, client work, wildlife, or anything with a team, storage is not only about having enough terabytes anymore. It's about keeping track of valuable footage while cards are moving around, everybody's under pressure, and you have very little room for mistakes. Probably zero. And that is the problem this thing is trying to solve. This is the Unify UP6. The first thing to understand is that this is not really a portable SSD, but it is also not a traditional NAS that permanently lives somewhere in your office. Like UnifyDrive calls it a mobile NAS, but I think Portable Data Workstation explains it a bit better. You install up to 6 SSDs inside, insert your camera cards directly, manage backups on a 6-inch touchscreen, access everything through the app or the screen, and share the files locally with other people. At a desk, you can connect through Thunderbolt 4 and edit directly from it. It also has 10 gigabit Ethernet for that. And over Wi-Fi, it can either join an existing network or create its own one, an access point, so you can access the footage even when there is no router around. It can be powered and charged through 100-watt USB-C, and the built-in battery has 2 purposes. It lets you back up cards even without a power source, but it also works like a UPS. Not the parcel service, it means uninterrupted power supply. So if somebody accidentally pulls the power while files are being copied, the device does not instantly die in the middle of that transfer. Especially here where I live, power cuts are quite frequent, and I actually had a data loss once on a NAS because of one, so a UPS has become a must for me. I can't sleep without. So yes, compared with a portable SSD, this is obviously overkill, but that is also not really a fair comparison. An SSD stores files, the UP6 is trying to manage the entire workflow around those files. So first we need to see whether the main workflow actually makes sense. So we went out here in Kengquachan National Park quite a bit to shoot wildlife, and I think that's one of those situations here where the UP6 can make a lot of sense, also assuming that maybe you would shoot a documentary here or so. So this is kind of our base here next to our car, as a campground in the back here, and so this would be a usual example where you would meet up with your film crew and then you of course want to back up all your files. So what we can do now, we can just plug in all our cards from all different cameras, back up all the footage, then we can even review it directly. And the cool thing is really, like, you could set up a RAID and it's directly stored on 2 drives, 2 SSDs, plus you can also keep it on your SD, of course. You can also delete it from your SD or your CFast Express card if you need space, but you don't have to. Like, you can actually have it backed up in 3 locations then. So I would say let's do that now and see how everything works. Would also be nice to know if we can back up 2 cards at the same time, like a CFast Express and an SD card. So let's do that. It actually worked. I put a CFast Express card in here and an SD card at the same time, and I was able to back them up at the same time. I just didn't have like a lot of data on the SD card, so it finished quite early, but it does work together. Like that's cool. Like, if some people in your team have CFast Express, the others have SD, you don't even have to wait. Here's pretty much no internet available, also no Wi-Fi where we could connect to or anything. That's pretty cool here, because as you can see in the menu here, hopefully, with this AP, the access point mode. So here you can just activate an access point, connect via Wi-Fi, like the UP6 creates a Wi-Fi network here. You connect to it and then you can log into that NAS via the app and you can review all your files, you can handle them, delete them, do whatever you want with them. Here just type in the IP address here, 192, and now he is logged in and I am also logged in on my iPhone here. So yeah, now we can review the footage here that we just copied. Automatically goes to the next file. Let's see his, yeah. So that's working great, I would say. What do you say?
It's awesome, yeah. You can just share the footage and it just works, right? Yeah.
But also, let's say you don't want to use your phone at all because maybe you just want to have a quick review. You don't even have to do that. You can also just click on my files here. As you can see here, you can also actually review the videos in the drive directly, like on a touch screen here. Like, this is so cool. So if you're alone, for example, you don't even have to connect your phone. You can just review the files there. And these are, by the way, 10-bit HEVC log files. They all load perfectly. I just found out one more thing. You can also adjust the speed in their app. Let me show you that. Like here, you adjust the speed and then you can play it back in up to 2x speed. So you can review all your footage much faster. Now, we copied about 760 gigabyte of data and also reviewed files for probably about 20 minutes, and it's still 40% battery left. So you have plenty of time, even if you don't have any power at all. It also has a USB-C connector here with 100 watts PD charging, so you could also use a small rig V-mount battery or so to power that even longer. So yeah, that works beautifully, but that's not all. Like, you can also use that to actually collaborate on editing. I would say let's continue that in a cafe and show you how that works. So we're in a cafe now, editing the footage together, and like, this is so cool. Again, like we just did in the national park, I created an access point here, and now we can use a Samba server to both access the files at the same time via that access point, via Wi-Fi, and now we're actually editing off the same footage here. So I could, for example, already prepare a timeline for a long form video while he already creates the first shorts. What would you say,
Yeah,
Marcus?
it's great. It runs super smooth. You can just play back everything.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah.
That's cool, yeah. Well, not perfectly, I think, but it's definitely editable, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's
Yeah. That's like when it went to another clip, then it's like a little bit of lag there, but that's fine. Of course, I'm not talking about raw footage here. I'm talking about HEVC 100 to 200 Mbits, so something that a Wi-Fi can handle. But there is also another way of editing if you really deal with heavy footage, like raw footage or whatever, or you need full speed. You can also connect, I think, 2 or maybe even 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports there. Okay, we had a little accident, a little water accident. His MacBook is drying right now. Anyway, I just looked it up online, and it is possible to connect 2 MacBooks at the same time via Thunderbolt 4, and you get 40 gigabits per connection. That's good. Of course, limited by the speed of your SSD. So if you edit like huge raw files and you have a slow SSD inside, that of course could mean that it still slows down. It's nothing that they can change about. But however, I'm like testing it here now. Sure, can you see that? And whenever I skip through here, you see like that is perfect speed. I'm connected here via Thunderbolt 4. That's, by the way, the cable that comes with it. That's pretty nice that they even include the Thunderbolt 4 cable, so you don't have to use your own. Yeah, so I think workflow wise, for like things like that, collaborative editing or someone reviewing the footage or so, this is perfect. Like, whenever you're on the go and you have multiple people that need access to the same files, yeah, thumbs up. A question that stays, of course, is how fast this thing actually is. So let's have a look into that. So let's test how long a real card takes to back up and whether different types of footage play smoothly. Using the WD Black SN770 NVMe SSD with 2 terabytes of footage, I copied around 660 gigabyte of data from my Pergear Pro CFast Express Type B card, and the direct card backup took a bit less than 35 minutes, which works out to roughly 18.9 gigabyte per minute or 315 megabyte per second. I think that could have been a bit faster, but it might be my specific CFast Express card or so, because over Thunderbolt 4 I got around 1.9 gigabyte per second when I copied files to the UP6 from my MacBook's SSD. So it's either my CFast Express card or the CFast Express card reader inside the UP6 that's slow, or the combination of both. Copying from the UP6 to my MacBook happened at around 1.6 gigabytes, by the way, and I don't have 10 gigabit Ethernet here, so I could not test that. And when I tested it via Wi-Fi, I got pretty slow speeds over 2.4 gigahertz, like unacceptable, but decent speeds over 5 gigahertz. And that counts for both the access point mode and my local Wi-Fi. So definitely stick to 5 gigahertz connections when you use Wi-Fi. And connecting an external SanDisk SSD directly to copy files to it was also super fast. I got around 800 to 1000 megabyte per second. And this is also a little trick that's not supposed to be, but if you want to copy your CFast Express files faster, use an external reader and connect it to a USB-C port on the UP6, because that almost doubled the speed for me at around 550 megabyte per second. And important, I say and mean byte, not bits, so these are the big numbers, like actual 1.6 gigabyte every second, and not this bit stuff where you have to divide by 8, I think, to get the actual number. The even bigger advantage, I think, aside from speed though, is that the transfer, storage, access, and backup workflow all happen in one place. And once all of that footage starts turning into a proper archive, the AI features start making a lot more sense. Now, the first time I saw AI search on a storage device, I thought this might be one of those features you demonstrate once and then completely forget about. And honestly, if you have 10 clips inside one folder, it probably is. But especially if you store footage for long periods of time, remembering the exact folder and file name becomes almost impossible. And there, AI indexing actually helps a lot. Like after indexing, you can search with normal descriptions instead of file names. So I can type something like person holding a camera or sunset, and it finds visually related files. What's even better is that the processing happens locally on device instead of requiring the entire archive to be uploaded to a cloud service. It's like even if they would compress that would of course take a lot of time. So it's better to do that locally. So that definitely helps a lot when the footage is already safely inside your archive. But what if something goes wrong before it gets there? That's where the recovery assistant comes in. I deleted a few clips from a card, scanned it, and I was actually able to recover those clips. So this assistant is awesome, but it can't do magic, and recovery is never guaranteed. You should be aware of that. Don't rely on it. Therefore, it also does not replace a proper backup, but having a recovery tool built into the same device without needing separate software or paid service is a genuinely useful safety net. And it can actually save you quite a bit of money, because those apps that you might need to recover lost software are quite expensive. And this brings us to the part that decides whether all of this is very clever or completely unnecessary. Who should actually spend this much money on it? Because the UP6 is not cheap. It's $1,599, and you still have to buy SSDs. So I'm not going to pretend this makes sense for everybody. If you use one camera, shoot a few not super high value clips and copy them to your SSD when you get home, this solves a problem you probably do not have. But paid footage changes the calculation. A wedding cannot be repeated because a card disappeared. Losing client footage can mean a refund, a reshoot, a missed deadline, and potentially damage to your reputation. In those situations, the expensive part is not the storage device. The expensive part is the mistake. And that is where the UP6 starts making a lot of sense. Professional photographers, filmmakers, wedding and event creators, commercial shooters, production teams, basically anyone working with footage they cannot afford to lose. The simplest way to judge it, I would say, is the UP6 makes sense when the footage going into it is more valuable than the device itself. If that is not true, there are simpler options. Also actually one from UnifyDrive. They make the UT2. I do not have one here, so this is a quick mention rather than a review, but it is similar yet smaller, cheaper and much more travel friendly. It can back up SD, micro SD or TF and CFast Express cards. It has dual SSD storage, semantic AI search and also its own access point mode. So if you are a solo travel creator or so and you like the card backup and local access idea, but the UP6 is clearly too much, the UT2 might be the more relevant product to look at. My final takeaway is actually very simple. This is not a drive for somebody who just needs more storage, and it is not something I would personally bring for every YouTube video. It is a workflow product for people who cannot afford to lose track of their footage. So if your footage is valuable enough that this type of workflow makes sense, you can find the UP6 and UT2 throughout the dedicated links and coupon codes in the description. With those, you will get the UP6 for $150 off, and for the UT2, you will get 2 additional silicone protective cases at no extra cost. And if all you need is one SSD, honestly, just buy an SSD.